Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we're talking about something that is just insane in the camera industry. It's a camera that has the potential to blow all of our minds, and it's certainly making the biggest technological advancements that we've seen in decades. The Canon EOS R5. I'm super excited for this body to come out. I'm excited to see more of the specs, more of what it can do. I feel like every month we're getting these little bits and pieces of true, real facts and information regarding what this camera will be capable of. Originally, there was the rumors of it having 8K, and that was about it. And people were excited, people were skeptical. I certainly was. I didn't really believe it at first. And I did make a video talking about this camera and the R6, which is the entry-level version for the second generation of EOS R cameras. But today is all about the R5, and we're talking about some details that have been released recently and some of the things that you guys can expect from this camera and just my thoughts overall on it. If you're new here, please consider hitting that subscribe button and the thumbs up for this video. It really helps out my channel. And with that, we're gonna get started talking about what we already know about this camera and what to expect. It's going to have a similar form factor as far as the physical body shape that the EOS R has. However, there's going to be a few major changes. The touch bar is going to be removed, which some people are excited about that. I personally was kind of okay with the touch bar. I think if it was a scroll wheel simply on the back side of the camera, that would have probably been more effective, because it's not as likely that you'll mess it up just by accidentally touching it, especially when you have it connected to white balance or important controls like that. But for me, the touch bar has been perfectly fine, and I've enjoyed using it for the most part. I'm excited that it's going to have a spin dial where your thumb rests on the D-pad area. I was pretty shocked to see that the EOS R didn't have that, and then when the M6 Mark II came out and that had the wheel, I don't know, I think the wheel is nice because it makes playback and going through settings just a little bit seamless, and you can get through them much quicker, and it just has that overall more professional photo feel. I think Canon's going to make overall just a ton of improvements with this camera, and if you guys were impressed by the 1DX Mark III and its performance, get ready, because the EOS R5, I believe, would just be an absolute shocker, and I think the price difference is just going to be, I don't know, it's going to be hard to buy the 1DX Mark III. I think that overall there's just not much reason to buy the 1DX Mark with the EOS R5 on the horizon. However, there could be a few main differentiating points that would give the 1DX3 an advantage over the EOS R5. In video terms, I'm sure that for a photo camera and for sports action photography, the 1DX Mark III is definitely geared towards more of the professional shooters, and it just has some video specs that are very impressive kind of on the side. But I think the EOS R5's main goal of delivery, I believe, is on the video side of things, but it also has some very incredible photo capabilities that we are going to be seeing. It's going to have two dual card slots, that would be 4 cards. It's going to have dual card slots for media recording, which is confirmed that it will be one CF Express card and one UHS 2 speed class SD card. So since it's two completely different types of media cards, it's very unlikely that you'll be able to dual record your videos and write redundantly unless you're using a dumbed down codec like 4K 30 or below, but we shall see kind of what the capabilities and what the potential is with that. Full frame is the main focus of this camera. They're optimizing it to use the full width of the sensor, which is great because you'll have 8K full frame in all shooting modes. 8K will present a 30 frame option, probably 24 frame option, hopefully, and also RAW mode. So that's going to be incredible. You're going to be able to shoot in, I'm assuming, 12-bit RAW internally, so that's going to be pretty insane. The biggest unanswered questions are, what will the recording time limits be for that? And even if you don't have a significant recording time limit, your media cards will probably be the main limiting factor as to like how long you can record, just because 8K RAW video files are going to be monstrous as far as the size goes, and it's probably going to just eat your editing software and computer for breakfast. So realistically, if I were to pick up this camera, I would not be shooting in 8K ever unless I needed to crop in. If I forgot my telephoto lens and I need to really push in, maybe I would use it, but 8K isn't really the source of my excitement for this camera. It is pretty insane, but is it usable and is it practical? I don't think it will be. My biggest hope is that the RAW shooting mode will be available in something like 4K 24 or even 4K 60, but it has been confirmed that the camera will have 4K 120 frames per second, full frame with 10-bit 422 colored bit depth. And that is just, that's gonna be crazy. Nothing has come close to that. And even though it's gonna be in the H.265 codec, which is pretty hard for your computer to chug through. That is going to be fine because you can just render out some proxies for it and you'll be good to go. But you'll also have that 10-bit color depth, which will allow you to push and pull the colors while you're grading without having your footage fall apart very quickly. Now, of course, it won't be as good as RAW recording, but hopefully in 4K 60 or at least 4K 24, Canon will hopefully present that RAW shooting mode with the EOS R5. That might be the determining factor as to whether or not I pick up this camera. And overall, I'm expecting that the 1080p will just be phenomenal and superb because it's got an 8K sensor taking all of that information and putting it into a 1080p image. So I'm assuming that the 1080p is going to look pretty phenomenal. It's going to be having a dual IS system with in-body image stabilization. However, I'm not exactly sure what kind of IBIS it's going to have because Canon did make a statement announcing that it will be a unique take on IBIS that hasn't really been utilized before. So I'm curious to see what kind of IBIS it's going to implement. And one question that I personally have with this camera and with the RF IBIS system and how it's going to be working with lenses and in conjunction with lenses is, will you be able to use EF glass that is image stabilized and take advantage of the image stabilization on the Canon EOS R5. I think if not, that will be kind of disappointing because I only got two lenses, but they're both EF lenses and they're image stabilized, so that would be kind of disappointing if you weren't able to take advantage of that. And I'm sure that that will be the case, so that's kind of a bummer there. I'm also curious to see if there will be any benefits to using an external recorder with this camera. I know 12-bit RAW and 10-bit 422 4K 120 FPS are going to be something that you can achieve internally, but with a lot of Canon's most recent hybrid mirrorless cameras, and even the 1DX Mark, there have been some benefits that you can reap and some kind of features that you can unlock by using an external recorder, for example, by Atomos. I don't have a Ninja 5 or anything that I can record externally, but I'm curious to see if it would be worth picking something up and if that purchase would be future-proofed, or if the R5 will be able to do everything internally. For my videos here and most of my client videos, I shoot them in primarily 1080p, and that's for quite a few reasons, but I think one of the main reasons why I'm not planning to pick up this camera when it's announced, at least initially, is I never buy cameras new. I try and buy used all of the time. I got the EOS R for a steal, and it certainly will be some time before you see any R5s on the used market. But I don't think that the capabilities are something that I need right now. I think when I take into consideration who am I trying to impress with my work and what's the overall goal and message, I think first and foremost, I want to tell an effective story, and I want to have gear that allows me to do that without hindering me or putting roadblocks up. And I think as far as cameras go, I'm pretty happy with what I have, and I think this should last me at least another year or two. And I think for most shooters, the EOS R5 will not be something that you necessarily should be picking up. If you have the money, maybe, but I think you're going to need to make sure that you have the experience. You're going to make sure that you need to have lighting and audio in check, and that you got those dialed in before you really dive into this camera system, because otherwise it could be a big waste of $3,500 potentially dollars. I know that a lot of YouTubers really post videos on these cameras, on reviews, saying, should you buy this or not? And then in the end, they say, yeah, go ahead, buy it. Use my affiliate links in the description below to purchase this camera. It's going to be great. It's going to enhance your career. You're going to build a great portfolio. You're going to attract clients that will pay six figures for your videos, and that's not necessarily the case. I don't think that people should be buying professional cameras unless they are professional shooters. And I think even the Canon EOS R is labeled as an entry-level camera for enthusiasts. I would consider it a professional level camera. And the only thing that's stopping it from being so, I would say, is dual card slots. And for photographers, that's kind of a big thing that differentiates what's professional and what is meant for enthusiasts. So with the R5 coming out, I would recommend you guys to maybe be on the lookout for some cheap EOS Rs that are going to be emerging on the used market, because people are definitely going to be selling their EOS Rs and going for the R5. Some people who should be doing that and some people who shouldn't be doing that. For me personally, finances are looking good as of now, but that is going to be limited to, at the most, 4 months, because that's kind of what the government contract said. And you guys know this, things are radically changing on a day-to-day basis as far as what government laws are being passed and what money situations are looking like. So anything could change and anything could go away at a moment's notice. So you guys need to be very mindful of that, and I certainly do too. This is mostly just me talking to the camera for my benefit, but I also do want to help you guys along the way. And so I would say, sure, put money aside, start building up some money in like a gear savings fund in preparation for the EOS R5, but make sure that you're not selling your camera right now But I've seen some YouTubers saying like, oh, I've sold my EOS R already in preparation for the R5 because I want to get it out on the used market before it loses a little bit more value. I don't think that's a fantastic idea because I think the R5 could maybe be disappointing in some ways, or it could just be radically astounding. And in that case, maybe they're doing the right thing, and maybe they're one of those few people who can actually use it in a practical sense, because take it into consideration. I mean, the R5, that's not the only expense you're going to have to incur. The body will be probably $3,500. The media cards, the CF Express cards, those are not cheap at all, and especially for shooting in 8K, you're gonna have to get some big size cards, and that can run you like up to $500. It's gonna have a new battery, so you're gonna probably have to get some more batteries, or if you want a battery grip, you'll have to cop that as well. If you have some image stabilized EF lenses, you might have to get rid of those and purchase some IS RF lenses, which are so expensive, it's insane. Along with that, your computer might not be able to handle the footage that the R5 is recording, whether it's in the H.265 codec or if it's in RAW. Like my 2013 MacBook probably would not do fantastically with that. It could probably work with Final Cut Pro. Premiere, that is out of the question. I don't even use Premiere anymore because it takes so long to edit a video. And so there are just a lot of things overall to think about when you're looking at the R5, and there are so many unanswered questions that I think committing to that financially is not a great idea right now at the time of this video's recording. One thing that I heard someone say is whenever you think you need a new camera, invest in lighting. And I think that's a great idea. Like for me, my lighting situation could certainly be much more ideal. I've only got one light that I feel like is really a solid piece, which is the Godox SL60W. Definitely check that one out if you haven't heard it before. But there are just so many things besides a camera body that you guys could be investing in that would provide you so much more value, because cameras are the single most depreciable assets that you could put your money in, besides probably a smartphone. And at the end of the day, these are just tools that you're using to accomplish whatever goal you have, whether that's storytelling or attracting clients or going viral on YouTube. It really doesn't matter what tool you're using as long as it can effectively get your message across without being distracting because it's low quality. And there's certainly the perfectionist in me, and probably you as well, that says, well, I want to have the best footage, the best film that I possibly can, and if that means investing in an expensive tool to get me there, then maybe that's what it means. And I think definitely form a pros and cons list for your purchasing needs if you want to buy this camera. And I would recommend waiting to see what the limitations are, what the firmware changes will be, seeing people buy it and making reviews of it on YouTube once it's actually released. I don't think pre-orders are a great thing to do with cameras because you don't really necessarily know all that you're getting. I mean, you can see the spec sheet, but cameras have to be much more than the specs. I mean, the EOS R was probably the most disappointing thing like in history as far as specs go. The A7 III, fantastic, especially in 2017, was fantastic when you look at the spec sheet, but there are a lot of things that aren't ideal about it when it comes to making it look good in a practical sense. So I think that goes to say to just wait. And especially if you have a camera store near you like I do with National Camera Exchange, maybe going in, trying it out hands-on, getting a feel for it, seeing the menu system, seeing the codec options, and just how it looks to you as an individual instead of having someone review it and make that purchasing decision for you. Be intentional, guys. I don't know, I kind of went off on a tangent with this video, but overall I think the EOS R5 is going to be an exciting advancement in technology, and it's going to push other camera companies, Fuji, Sony, Nikon, Panasonic, to develop their stuff and enhance the technology that they're putting into their bodies as well. And so overall, this is just a super exciting time in the camera industry, in the filmmaking industry. And I think even cinema camera lines are going to have to step up their act in order to really beat out the R5 and to make their products worth buying, as opposed to getting a hybrid camera like the EOS R5 to get the job done. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, throw a comment in the section below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let's have a conversation there. Share it with your friends if you found any of this information to be interesting or thought-provoking, and we will see you guys on the next video. Don't forget to subscribe.